Let me first thank publicly Dee and Frank, and I know Kevin's not here. A little more than a year ago, they took a leap of faith in me, and I tried to repay that leap of faith because there's always this idea that people from the city of New York, anything above Westchester County is just a different world to us. And so I made a promise not only to them, but I really wanted to make a promise to all of you that the issues and concerns that all of you had would be just as important to me as my home county, of the Bronx. And with the tour last year, I did learn a lot of things. This year was the second budget that I was I was tasked to negotiate on behalf of the conference. But I'd say this time around, I was much more informed that when members of the conference got up and said certain things were important to them relative to their districts, I think I had a little deeper meaning or understanding of what that meant. And as a former county chair, your chairwoman was very gracious and very honest. It's one of the worst jobs you can actually have because it's a job with diminishing returns. Every year you elect somebody and then they go on to do things, and then you have about 5 or 6 people who are angry that you didn't support them. So you get many more enemies than friends when you're a county chair. But for me, I'll always understand the importance of the county committees, and not just the elected board or the county chair, but the members of the county committee, the people who really are the lifeblood of who we are as candidates. We couldn't make the ballot without you. And a lot of times you're the unsung heroes. You do this, you don't get paid for it. You get doors slammed in your face. You get people to call you names and say you're crazy for coming out there, bothering them, trying to get petitions. But any person who's in elected office couldn't be where they are without the help that many of you in the committee do. So that's why I tried, even though when I was elected speaker, the minute I accepted speaker, I resigned as county chair. That was one of the more joyful things. But it's always will always be I'd say a sweet spot for me in the understanding and the sympathy that I'll have for every county chair. That's why I've tried to, as many times as they've invited me to come and speak, and I know how difficult it is to raise money as a county chair, and even for elected officials, it's probably the task we hate the most, to ask people for money. It's part of the business, it's part of it, but it's still not an easy thing to do. So I do like to try to assist the counties around, Democratic counties around the state in that vein. And although he was mentioned, and I know he's not one of us, but he was one of my favorite Republican colleagues when he was there. No. I mean, and actually, he voted with us probably more times than not. But Joel, it really is good to see you, and I do miss you because he was really good friend. I'll tell you a story. When I first got elected, I'm a guy from the city. We don't have many Republican elected officials, so you go up to Albany with this idea that Republicans are like these one-eyed monsters. And when my office, I was next to the majority leader, and we were surrounded by nothing but Republican elected officials. And you just learn that people just have different ideologies. We're all the same people, we're all good people. And Joel is actually one of those guys that I became very friendly with. So I'm actually happy he's here.
That's because he's from the city.
That's because he's from the city. I thought he was telling us he was going to change his enrollment. But really, this opportunity that has been given, to me, I don't take it lightly. It's been a life-changing thing for me, and I think in these last 2 budgets, and probably more of this budget, and most of what I'm going to talk about today is really going to hinder on some of the transformational things that we were able to accomplish in this year's budget, and in always trying to take in relative sensitivities to different economies, different regions of the state. And I'll start off by having the minimum wage. The increase in the minimum wage is one of the core things that Democrats, we take to our heart. One of the best ways to get people out of poverty is to raise wages. But we also dealt with the different sensitivities around the state. The cost of living in New York City is astronomical as compared to other places, and one of the things we did do, and I'd say Dee Dee and Frank were at the forefront of making sure that, Dutchess County and Columbia counties and other counties are sensitive to, with the farming industry, we were able to, even in the midst of the minimum wage, to have a tax credit to help the farmers deal with the minimum wage. And then I'd say the next big transformational thing we were able to accomplish was paid family leave, which that's a big thing. And the reason why that is so important is, particularly in, no one should have to worry about getting paid if they feel like they need to take a little time to welcome a new addition to the family, or even take care of another, maybe an older relative or someone who has just taken ill. We always, as Democrats, we always want to do things in a compassionate and meaningful way. And I think that this is something that, generations from now will be able to look back and see what we were able to, accomplish this year. And then when I said that I made the big promise that the places outside of New York City would mean just as much. If you look at where, even on transportation, a lot of people are talking about transportation parity and things like that. We invested as much money outside of the city of New York as we did in the NTA region. And that was a commitment, and really based on the strength of the members who don't represent the city of New York. And I know sometimes people try to use it for political expediency about there's this downstate versus upstate, but within our conference, that just does not exist. If there's something that Dee Dee or Frank or Kevin gets up and says is important to their region, those of us in New York City, we feel, that it's imperative that we support them, just because there's times, particularly towards the end of the session last year, when in the city of New York, rent regulations is one of the larger issues. All of the members of the conference outside of the city of New York supported us when we were saying that we couldn't in session without getting rent regulations to be renewed and extended. So there's always been this, I call it a deferring. If an upstate member says it's important to them, the city members from the city of New York and Long Island, we support that, just and vice versa. So I just want to make sure to kind of dispel these rumors that newspapers sometimes write, and sometimes political candidates try to say that there's an upstate and downstate divide. In our conference, it doesn't exist. It didn't exist before I was speaking. It won't exist after me and the next speaker, because that's what the Democrats in the Assembly we do. We care about each other. We always want to make sure that we all are successful and we all succeed. And I'd say one of the larger accomplishments too that we were able to do this year, we did a couple of things. Another record increase in education funding, and we eliminated the GEA, but we also did the largest increase in foundation aid for struggling school districts, and for me, representing the Bronx, which has is the poorest county in the state, we also came up with the idea of funding community schools, because we found that there's a direct correlation between poverty and children's performance. And this really kind of got born out of last year's debate on education, when the governor had first said that he wanted to take over struggling schools. And I remember my first negotiating session with him, he says, but we have to do something about struggling schools. And I said, Governor, you said that 90% of the struggling schools are in communities of color where there's poverty. So I said, that means there's a direct correlation, and blaming teachers or, super teachers may not be able to solve the problem. You're unsung heroes, and you get blamed for things, and people want you to work miracles. But sometimes these children walk into the classroom with problems that are so deep that there's, you couldn't even work a miracle in the 6 to 7 hours that you were all with them. So to even have the governor kind of do an about face and really embrace the idea of trying to deal with poverty and school performance at the same time. And I'd say one of the other wonderful things we were able to do, launching on the governor's anti-poverty initiative, we kind of expanded it, that every city that has at least 20% poverty will have an anti-poverty initiative, around the state. And, for me, like I said, representing the Bronx, and a lot of, before I became even county chair, I used to sit with He's now the Bronx Borough President of the Bronx, and we would say to each other that we want the Bronx to stop being first in everything that's bad and last in everything that is good. And it's kind of that mindset has kind of come with me in my presence as speaker, because we have to start to do things a little differently. I do think people's hearts were always in the right place, but I think we had to start to look at things a little differently. That's why I'm so happy with the way we're trying to tackle poverty. We're trying to tackle school performance for our students. We want to try to make sure that everybody across the state feels included in what we've tried to do. That's why I'm so proud of, I said, the transportation money that we were able to put primarily up here in upstate New York. And I'd say one of the last things that I think that many of us in the Assembly are proud of, our continued investment in higher education. We're happy that there was no tuition increase in this year's budget, and we wanted to make sure that we gave opportunities to those students who would like to go to college, particularly through the opportunity programs. They're so successful. And I just want to just tell you this one story about why I'm so proud of the things that we do. As part of the tour that I took, and I visited every district that's held by a Democrat outside of the city of New York, and one of the stops I made was at SUNY Albany. And when I got out of the car, a young man who I had met in Cuba on the exchange trip that we were doing, business exchange trip to Cuba that I went to the governor in April of last year. And this young man hands me a bag, an EOP bag, and that's the Education Opportunity Program. And there were 53 thank you cards in the bag. And I said to myself, what is this? And he told me that these were the thank you cards from the 53 students who were accepted into the program, who were on the waiting list, but they were accepted into the program after we put in the extra money. And I would read through those cards, and I still have them in my district office. And on these tough days where I say, why do I do this to myself? I read those cards, and I remember this one young lady, she said, Speaker Hasty, I want to thank you for what you and your colleagues did. You've given me the opportunity to attend college. And she says, I apologize for giving you this card so late, but I just got my acceptance letter to SUNY Albany. And she signed it Future World Changer. And that's not even the best part of the story. So during our annual Black and Latino Caucus weekend, they brought her to meet me, because every time I would tell the story, I kept saying I want to reach out to her, and I want to see her, and I want to tell her how much I was moved by the card. Now, in her first semester, and she was from the Bronx, by the way, she had a 4.0 as a student at SUNY Albany. So when we look at these type of opportunities that we do in an elective office, I always say that when I was county chair and I'd go to a swearing in of a new elected official, I'd say, we're never going to solve all of society's ills, and any elected official that tells you that is blatantly lying to you. But the job for us is to always try to make things better and provide more opportunities for those people who want to take on those challenges and have these doors, open for them. So this is why you get involved in public service, and I'm sure this is why all of you support candidates, and this is a very important year. But again, I want to thank all of you for what you do. Like I said, the unsung heroes of politics, and those of you who are running for office for the first time, my sympathies to you. Godspeed, and don't believe everything that the newspapers say about you. Don't believe most things. Don't believe all things that the newspapers say about you. You know why you're doing these things in your heart and in your mind. And to me, the greatest thing that we can ever do is to do things for people we don't know it will never be. It's always easy to do things for people you do know, but the greatest gifts, I think, are when you do things for people that you don't know and you never meet. So thank you all for having me. And good luck to you.
Think about this. March 2nd, 1917. Does anybody know the significance of that date? No. That's the date that Puerto Ricans became U.S. citizens. Why is that significant? Because next year is the centennial celebration of Puerto Ricans becoming citizens. Why is that relevant here? I'm the first and only Latino in Dutchess County to ever run for state office. So, if you want diversity, Reverend Alice, you talked about that. You want diversity, you want leadership, you want a party that actually takes a hold and makes a change. That's the Democratic Party. I'm a representative of the Democratic Party, the first and only Latino to run for office. I need your support. We had Basil Michael here. We had Carl Heasey here. What do we share in common? I'm also from the Bronx, from their neighborhoods. So it's like being with family there, being with family here. I need your support, please. And Kevin Cahill talked about auctioning lunch with Terry. Well, who wants to give $100 on March 2nd to have lunch with me? I need someone to give $100 on the centennial celebration. We have somebody right there. Anybody for $125? Anybody for $125? Thank you. So, thank you. We're going to have lunch March 2nd, 2017, when we celebrate Puerto Rican centennial.
For lunch? That is not acceptable. I am very funny at lunch, I promise. I'm going to be really brief. It's Labor Day. Can you guys hear me? You're all here because somewhere, at some moment in your life, something in your heart made you step forward and say you wanted to be part of building something. And speaking up for people whose voices are shut out. Thank you. I think we all want to see this whole region get built anew. Build high-speed rail. Build broadband so everybody can have affordable, high-speed broadband. Build transportation services and invest in some of the transportation services that Dee Dee has been such a great advocate for so people aren't shut out, left out, and isolated from our economy. Build renewable energy, solar, wind, water. We have enough. And the reason we aren't doing that isn't because these aren't like really basic, obvious ideas. This is what we got to do, right? It's because we got a lot of corruption in our system. Big money has too much power, and people don't have enough power. So, the way we overcome that is building our party. In the dead of night when I get attacked, actually I don't get attacked in the dead of night, but when there's a bad day in politics and I go back and say, why am I doing this? I am doing this to be part of building our party. We're going to be reaching into everybody's home. This is an incredible turnout today. You should be really, really proud of the turnout today. But reaching in, bringing in the 23-year-olds, bringing in the people who got disaffected with the Democratic Party but are ready to come back, working together on coordinated campaigns up and down the ticket so together we can come together and build this connected community and build the future that we are capable of having, and I know we can. So thank you to Elisa and thank you to all of you for these few seconds here. Have a wonderful May Day, and I'm worth more than $100 for lunch.